Welcome back to another Dynasty rookie profile. Today we are looking at running back out of Oregon, Bucky Irving, one of my favorite prospects, running back prospects in this draft class. If you're new to the channel, give us a like and subscribe. We are putting out Dynasty content all off season, during the season, and we've been putting out these Dynasty rookie profiles to help you get a better understanding of not only the production, the raw numbers you see, the underlying numbers of players, and also some film evaluation as well of some players, some things that I saw on film. We're trying to find the hidden gems of this rookie draft class. You know, the guys that are not going to go in the first round of your Dynasty rookie drafts, guys that are going to be drafted in the second, third, fourth round. Hopefully you can hit on one or two of those guys. And today we have Bucky Irving. You know, the more and more I dive into this running back draft class, the more I like. The more and more I like. I keep saying that now, but man, this draft class is not as bad as we kind of made it to seem back in January, December, November, whenever we started talking about it. So Bucky Irving is a guy that I really like. He's 5'9", 192. We'll get back to that size there in just a second. His 2023 production, as you can see, he had 186 carries, almost 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, 56 catches for 400 more yards and 2 touchdowns. So 1,500 total yards and 13 touchdowns. He's kind of projected to be a day 2, maybe like a late day 2, early day 3 pick. Not sure yet. It's March 25th. Still about 4 or 4.5 weeks away from the NFL draft starting. So a lot could change. You see his combine numbers here. He ran a 4.55, which, you know, we want to see it a little bit higher, but that's not that bad. Anything in the 4.5s is still okay for a running back. Actually, I've been mentioning this on my videos. I went back and looked at every fantasy running back for the last 10-ish years or so, and you add every fantasy relevant running back, and you kind of average out their 40-yard time, and it comes out to a 4.51. So I think you would expect that to be higher, considering how much emphasis we do put on the 40-yard time. But it's a 4.51, not a 4.4, not a 4.3, a 4.51. So Bucky Irving running a 4.55 is fine. What's even more important to me is the 10-yard split. Again, I think teams are putting a lot more value into how fast are you? What's your initial burst like? Because very few runs are going to go for 40 yards. A lot more runs are going to go for 10 yards. What can you do in 10 yards, right? What can you do with your initial burst? And if you could separate within the first 10 yards, you're probably going to bust off a big run because 4.55 is still really fast, right? We're talking about tenths of a second less than other players who are running in the 4.3s. So 1.54 is actually a pretty good number. I think that's in the 70th percentile for running backs in the combine era. That, you know, as they recorded that. We ideally, for fantasy relevant running backs, we see this number at 1.55 on average. So anything under 1.55 is starting to get into good territory. So he has a really good initial burst, which shows on the tape. When you watch the tape of Bucky Irving, you definitely see that good initial burst. Some underlying numbers that I like to see here: elusive rating and breakaway percentage. To me, these are two important stats when it comes to evaluating running backs and if they're going to be successful in the NFL. Elusive rating. Can you break tackles? Breakaway percentage. Are you explosive? Do you have a lot of breakaway runs? Those two things, if you're not doing them at a consistently high rate in college, probably means you're not going to do them in the NFL. And honestly, if you can't break tackles or bust off big runs in the NFL, there's a good chance you're not going to be very successful in terms of, you know, for fantasy purposes. So, again, as we see here, Bucky Irving's elusive rating is 149.2, which is really, really good. On average, again, 49 fantasy relevant running backs since 2014, I believe I went back to, since 2014. Of the 49 fantasy relevant running backs, the average for them is 94.8 for this elusive rating, right? 94.8. So we want to see this number close to 100, essentially, and that's when it starts to be really good. Lower than 90, it's a little concerning because, again, it's college. If you're going to be drafted in the second, third round, you better be breaking tackles. 149.2 is actually the second best in this draft class, behind only Keelan Robinson, who didn't have a lot of carries. He did not have a lot of carries, and so if you have 20 carries and you break 3 tackles, that number is going to be really high. So I forget how many carries Keelan Robinson had, but it wasn't a whole lot. So the 149.2, I'm just double checking, is the second highest in this second highest, essentially the highest in this draft class. If you eliminate guys who had less than 100 carries, he can break tackles. And go watch his film, guys. Go watch some of his games. He's really good. He never goes down with the first contact. Is something I've always noticed, when I watch him. Is it doesn't matter that he's 192. He's breaking contact, breaking tackles like crazy. So it's really good to see that. For reference, like a guy like Devon Achane last year, who was a smaller back as well, his number was 93 elusive rating, so just slightly under the average we want to see. Still good. Bucky Irving's at 149.2, so his compact build and his balance come into play there. And he's just a fun player to watch, man. Breakaway percentage, this is your percentage of your yards that are coming on runs of 15 yards or more, right? So what percentage of your total rushing yards are coming on runs that go for 15 yards or more? He's at 39.4. That's okay. 40% is like the minimum we want to see. Anything north of like 45% is starting to get really good. And if you're at 50% or higher, that's like elite level stuff. So, breakaway percentage is at 39.4. It's not terrible. It's a slightly below average in my opinion. But it's still the fact that his elusive rating so high, I can work with a little bit lower breakaway percentage. And then his yards per route run is 1.2, which is pretty solid number. It's not amazing, but it's a solid number. But college, receiving stuff for running backs is always weird in college because a lot of the offenses, if you play on a good team, you have good receivers, they're going to get open a lot more than in the NFL consistently. 2, quarterbacks tend to run more. It's just not built as much into the college offenses to kind of pass the ball to their running backs. Although, again, he did have 56 catches, slightly inflated because Oregon is just passing the hell out of the ball. So good stuff here from Bucky Irving. Love to see that elusive rating. And just for your information, we're talking, when we talk about 149.2 elusive rating, I believe that's the third highest in the PFF era. It's Javonte Williams, it's Bijan Robinson, and it's Bucky Irving. So special stuff for Bucky Irving. As you can see up here, yards after contact, 743 of his 1,180 rushing yards came after contact. He averaged almost just a tick under 4 yards after contact per attempt. That's impressive. Getting 4 yards after you're contacted is impressive. Again, we're talking about a guy who's 5'9", 192. He's 192 pounds. It's what I love so much about Bucky Irving. So missed tackles forced at 69. Nice. Zone, he's pretty, he ran a lot of zone and gap, a little bit more gap than zone, which is a little surprising for him, but makes sense because he's not elite fast. And I think usually you want a little bit faster of a player with really good vision or a speed player to run a zone run scheme. So we'll see where he gets drafted in the NFL. And then we're looking at the production here, guys. Career dominator percentage of 17%. Dominator, for a running back, is the percentage of their team's total yards and touchdowns. He accounted for 17% of Oregon's total offense over the last 3 years. So that's a good number. We ideally want to see this above 20%. And we definitely want to see anything above 25% is like elite territory. He was just always kind of like putting up a solid number. He was very consistent in his production. 15% his first year producing for Oregon, or his first year at Minnesota, 17% his first year at Oregon, his second year in college, and then 19% last year in 2023. So very, very consistent, always above the threshold of 15%. And then his breakout age of 19. This is the first season in which you put up 15% or more of 15% or more of a dominator rating, So he, his first season with Minnesota, he did it at the age of 19, which is really good. We want to see, again, 20 to or lower. We want to see a breakout age for both running backs and receivers of 20 or lower. And then he had an elite PFF grade, rushing grade of 91.8. So overall, Bucky Irving is definitely one of my favorite running backs. I have him in the tier 2. So tier 1, I have Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Jalen Wright, and Marshawn Lloyd. And then tier 2, I have Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, those players. So he's in my tier 2. I would probably rank him as like my RB5 or 6 in this draft class. And again, that's pretty awesome to see. Like, again, I think we went into this year like, oh, there's only a couple running backs. No, there's good running backs, man. If he gets into the right system, like Bucky Irving, the biggest question mark with him is, can he take a huge workload? So despite the NFL being more favorable to undersized players, smaller players, shorter players, we're seeing guys like Tank Dell, who, came in at like 165 and he was dominating in the NFL. Achane was awesome. Kyron Williams is another running back. Typically running backs under 200 pounds, it's like a red flag. I'm out. It's never going to succeed. We're seeing it happen more often. Guys like Austin Eckler, who is over 200 pounds, but a guy like Austin Eckler is a little bit smaller. There's still concern with these guys. We talked about Achane and Kyron Williams as running backs that are undersized in terms of their weight, under 200 pounds. And yeah, you can point to, well, they were awesome last year. Kyron Williams was absolutely awesome last year. Achane was explosive. He rushed for 800 yards in what seemed like 4 games. The issue is both those guys got hurt. Achane got hurt multiple times preseason, during the season twice, I think, missed games. Kyron Williams, it's easy to forget. Kyron Williams did go on the IR and miss 4 games, I believe. It's just hard to believe because, he was so good for fantasy, right? But that's a concern, right? It's a concern. I still do think size matters for running backs a lot more than receivers. Smaller receivers can get away. Running backs are expected to run between the tackles, get the hard-earned yards, and no nonsense. Sometimes a team is happy with a 3 or 4 yard carry, and that's all they need. So I don't doubt that Bucky Irving can do that. I'm just wondering, can he stay healthy an entire season if he's going to be given a workload of, let's just say, 180-ish carries and some targets? I think I think using him as like a Tony Pollard kind of player is probably most beneficial for him. Putting him next to a little bit more of a hammer running back, the guy that can take the tough carries. And, Tony Pollard's like 2022 season with Zeke, he was awesome. He was just, he caught passes. He was explosive. He was getting, like 10 carries a game or so, but he was just staying fresh and explosive with those. So, again, he doesn't have the look of a running back, but, man, his tape is just – he's efficient. He's really, really efficient in both the run and pass game. The pass blocking stuff is a concern because you're not going to get on the field on third downs if they need you to pass block. So that's going to limit him a little bit. He's a nice north-south runner, which is good, right? To be a north-south runner rather than trying to bounce it outside all the time, because you just can't do that in the NFL. His balance is just insane. Just go and watch his, man. Just go and watch it. Like, the dude thinks the defender that you think he has him dead to rights, and the dude just like somehow gets out of it. Bucky Irving is awesome. Really good. Again, he's a great pass catcher, really good balance, good initial burst. The long speed is a little bit of a weakness. And the fact that he can't pass block is a little bit of, it's going to be a weakness for him as well. So that's all I have for you guys there. As always, like and subscribe. Leave a comment about what you think about Bucky Irving. Where do you have him ranked in terms of your rookie running back rankings? And I'll catch you guys all in the next video.